Okay, so this week's local experience. Now, I did do a poll the other day, and the winner of the poll was Dark Magician. Surprise, surprise. So it was Dark Magician, it was Super Quants, or it was Sky Strikers. So with Dark Magician winning the poll, I am more than happy to be taking this to locals for pretty much the last locals experience before Blazing Dominion comes into effect. And yeah, so I've got my base list together. There's a couple of changes that I want to make, trying to figure out what I want to put into it. And I thought what I'd do to pride this is I'll give you my thought process breakdown on what I'm looking at, what I'm considering, and then you'll be able to see after the event what I actually go with. So just breaking it down, like the deck's a bit all over the place at this exact moment in time, but I'm just going to break it down to like starters and then kind of non-engine, so like hand interactions and cards like that. So you can see that I've gone with the Dominus Impulse one on this one, and then I'll put like cards that aren't either, really. So I'm just going to put these all here. That can't really do anything on its own. I've got Breakers, which I'll put with the non-engine. Obviously Dark Magician can't do anything on its own, but that's just Dark Magician in general. Ash Blossom for non-engine. Hollowed Azamina can't really do anything. Wanted can. Soul Servant can't really do anything on its own, but this is just to break down and show you. I mean, even Magician Souls can't really do anything on its own, but it's still, you know, combo it off with other cards and you're in a bit of dreamland. So, yeah, just trying to break down the non-engine and cards like that, and then Pot of Prosperity can be pretty much anything. But you'll see that I've gone with the non-Primite version. I've literally only gone with the Azamina version. I'm trying to keep it to a base 40. And what you can see here is there are builds that will play the Shrine Sarcophagus package as well as. I personally think that that's too much. And you can see that each of these stacks are pretty even. So for non-engine, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then for starters and engine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 2 more in the starters. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I've got just as many hand interactions as I do cards that don't do anything on their own. So, you know, make of that what you will. Now, I feel that when I'm looking at this list here, I feel you could play the deck without Secrets of Dark Magic. I feel you could also play the deck with 1 gaze instead of 2 deck gaze. You could also very easily play with just 1 Dark Magician, even though I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not the biggest fan of it. You could afford to cut down Magician's Souls, and I was actually having this conversation with someone the other day. You can even afford to just play 1 Soul Servant if you really wanted to. But I was having this conversation with someone the other day. They were like, you know, what would you cut down? And between like Magician's Rod, Soul Servant, and Illusion of Chaos, I was like, well, if you're going to cut down anything, I would probably replace it with Illusion of Chaos, because the Illusion of Chaos can get you to Dark Magician or Magician's Soul. So it can get you to a starter, or it can get you to an extender. Which is why we've kind of got this broken down here, because Illusion of Chaos gets you to Magician's Rod, it gets you to Soul Servant. Magician's Souls. So that's kind of how the way you want to work it for your kind of starters there. Then when you look at the Wanted package, so the Wanted package of 3 Witch, 3 Wanteds. Each of those require a discard, but they will get you to an Ilia Sylvia, but they'll also get you to what you're trying to get here, which is your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So you got 5 there, you got 6 there. Okay. Technically, Deception. I mean, Deception is something. As long as you've got a monster to tribute, you're in a good position. But I suppose that can kind of fit into the other pile. And then you've also got Ready Fusion. So I decided to go with Ready Fusion instead of the Shrine Sarcophagus. The reason for that one is that Ready Fusion is technically your only technical 1-card combo that can get you into Dragoon, that doesn't need you to have a discard in some sort. So I felt that, you know, the Ready Fusion can also be a starter, and then I felt that you could afford to play less Magician's Rod for the pure fact that if you really want your normal summon to be Magician's Rod, you can search it out if you wanted to, and you don't really want to clog down on multiples. So that's kind of my approach there. If I was to, are these the cards that I would cut? Yeah, these are the cards that you could cut down. So I feel you could probably open up 5 spaces if you really wanted to cut these down. And then that could be like 5 more non-engine, 5 more breakers, entirely up to you. You're going to play Deception regardless. You have to play at least one Dark Magician. You have to be playing at least one Gaze of Tamaya, so they're non-negotiable. You have to play Hallowed Azamina. I still feel you probably should be playing, and you kind of have to play Magician Souls. You don't have to play Pot of Prosperity, but I don't mind playing it in a 40 card build. And then the last two cards is, I still like Soul Servant. There is a combo that if you already open up certain pieces, you can still build off the back of Soul Servant. Especially when it's so easy to get the Dark Magician to Destruction, which is treated as Dark Magician. It just makes it more consistent to do it. And then Dark Magical Circle is completely optional. You don't have to play it. That's just kind of up to you, really. Trying to think, I haven't got an Eternal Soul in the deck yet. I think Eternal Soul was something that I cut right at the last minute, but that's something that I could probably easily put back in. For the non-engine, again, pretty straightforward. So I've got the Fuel Losses, I've got the Impulses. Like, I like Impulse. I like what it does, so I'm quite happy to go with that. I've got the Fuel Loss, I've got the Ash Blossoms, and then we've got Ghost Spells, which is kind of like one of the hand traps, hand interactors of the format. And then we've got 2 Forbidden Droplet. Now, ultimately, the last cards in the deck being either Forbidden Droplet, Superpolymerization, or the Fallen and the Virtuous. So they're kind of cards that I'm considering. Obviously, Droplet, you send the right card, your opponent can't respond, but it does take you sending... Ultimately, you end up sending multiple cards to get the outcome you want. Whereas Superpolymerization, the downside of that one is that I've probably got like 2 to 3 space in the extra deck. So you'll go with your Garura, you go with your Mud Dragon, and then you've got maybe a Dracus Depelia. And at that point then, you're like, okay, well, how consistent is that going to be at breaking an opponent's field, depending on what you're expecting at the environment? I did consider Bestials as well if my environment was going to be Fiendsmith heavy. So that's something that I need to look into if my environment is going to be Fiendsmith heavy and change that there. So you can see here that I've got 5 cards I can play around with. So this can either become like 2 Ghost Ogres, it can become 3 Superpolymerizations. Really? It can come Fallen and the Virtuous, you kind of name it. You just probably wouldn't play Fallen and the Virtuous and Superpolymerization because you've got the extra deck space. The benefit of Fallen and the Virtuous is it's one card that can lead you into 3 interactions and it doesn't require a discard. But on the flip side of that, it needs you to get access to the graveyard. So if your opponent shuts you off from getting the graveyard, that's a bit of an issue. So yeah, I might go to Fallen and Virtuous instead of Forbidden Droplet. That's something that I still need to kind of figure out. And keeping in mind, Fallen and Virtuous only outs 1 card and it has to be face up, whereas Droplet can negate multiple. So if you're facing down like a Caesar and a Desiree, chances are they will Desiree your Fallen and Virtuous and then Caesar is still live. For the extra deck, there is still some spaces in the extra deck. I'll take you through a demo side deck as well because I still haven't narrowed that down. So for the links, Artemis, Selene, SP, and IP. The Artemis could arguably be cut. This is only in here so that you can turn a dark monster on the field into a light monster, and then you can use Master of Chaos to kind of nuke the field. But these 2 cards can be questionably changed, and if you were to consider that, that opens up more space in the extra deck. SP is SP, and you've got IP that will work its way into Selene, and Selene is the way you can use double Dragoon, because the idea is that you use Dragoon first, then you use IP with the Dragoon to make Selene, and then Selene can revive the Dragoon with his effect back intact. It just requires you to discard twice. So if you are going to go down that combo again, Droplet is a little bit questionable, and so is Superpolymerization. Moving on to, well, the only XEs that I've got right at the moment is Typhon. This is just one of these ones where certain scenarios might call for it. But again, if you wanted to open up that extra and you're like, right, I'm going to decide to go for Superpolymerization, I want as many targets as I possibly can, then you open that up a bit more. Fusion monsters, we've got the D-Mod. I got the Tamayashi United Dragon. I just think that this being like a bit of a towers can make it really awkward for your opponent. Ilya Sylvia alongside Rusiliago. The other one that you can consider, now let's see if I've been smart enough to put it to one side. I definitely saw it as I went through some cards earlier, which is quite annoying. But there is the other Azamina Fusion Monster. Don't know where it's gone. Maybe it's with my... Ah, there it is. Look at that. The other one you can consider is the Azamina Soul. And the reason you'd consider this one is it's just more of an aggressor for going second. So Ilya Silva gives you obviously the Omni Negate, whereas the Soul, if it's Fusion Sons, you target a card on the field and you just send it to the graveyard. And then during the standby phase, target an Azamina or a Sinful in the grave and add it back to the hand. So it's more so just an aggressor in comparison to the Ilya Sylvia. So it's something that I could very easily consider. And then we've got the One Sandwich, obviously your Ready Fusion target, Ready Fusion into Sandwich, banish the Sandwich, go into the D-mod. I've then got the Dark Magician of the Dragon Knight, and I've got the Dark Magicians. I'm probably leaning more towards the Dark Magicians than I am the Dragon Knight in this scenario. The benefit of this one is it's Dark Magician on the field and grave. If I'm playing Eternal Soul, I can bring it back and protect a little bit more. So it does make it very, very awkward for your opponent to deal with. But again, the extra deck can be flexed out a little bit. You could arguably even put in some rank 7s if you wanted to, because Witch is a 7, as is Dark Magician, of course. So that is an option for you as well. And then the final card, which is a staple in the extra deck for Dark Magician, is going to be your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now, while I have you all here, I am actually going to finally replace my Red Eyes Dark Dragoon with something else. Not so much anything too special if you've already seen my post. But we're going to go whoop, whoop. Yeah, you just can kind of compare the two now. This is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is becoming. So let me zoom in a little bit more on that one. Extended Art Dragoon, original Dragoon. This one's American print. This is just European print, but you can kind of just see how much more dominating it is. So, whoop, I go straight in. Yeah, so that's currently how the deck looks. The question is, what do I change? Now, as I did with the main deck, Sandwich stays, Ilya Sylvia stays, Timaeus I think is worth keeping, Rusiliago again worth keeping, D-Mod is going to stay, Dragoon's going to stay, IP, SP, Selene. So then the rest of this becomes open fodder. So it's either going to be your Super Polarization target, it's going to be your Fallen and Virtuous targets, it's going to be, like, you could have some generic options. My only generic options that I would consider would be possibly Imduct, but that's not necessary. Definitely Access Code Talker, and then I would also want to consider the Mech Knight Crusader Avramax, just because it makes it very awkward for your opponent to like attack over certain monsters. And that's something that I think could catch a lot of people off guard, especially when you put that with IP and it's like just an immovable towers, and they're like, oh, how the heck do I get past this card? And you're like, well, the other is you don't, but that's kind of part and part of it. So yeah, there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done. Nothing is set in stone as of yet. I'm still tweaking and changing certain aspects of the deck. So I'll see what I can play around with. It just doesn't feel right to me to cut these cards here, because it feels like less of a Dark Magician deck if I do. But then I do fully understand that if I can be a little bit more flexible on some of these cards, I could very easily open up the door, at least 3 of them. Maybe if I cut these 2 down and take these 3, or at least probably take something like this and take those 3 out. Maybe that's 3 Super Polarization or 3 Fallen the Virtuous. So I don't know. That's still something that needs to be decided. And again, it's all going to come down to what the environment's like. I'll quickly take you through the demo side deck. Again, I haven't narrowed this down to the 15. I did see a side deck that actually involved Lava Golem the other day, and I'd been thinking about it, because I was like, you know what? Apart from Magician's Rod, we don't need to use our normal summon, and then maybe Lava Golem solves the entire problem of dealing with our opponent's field. So like, rather than having to try and super poly 2 monsters off, I can free up my extra deck and just go, cool, Lava Golem, and get rid of them. Could be a good option. So up for contention right now is Perudias, Ogres, Nibiru's, and Drolls. I am fully aware of the Chorozo play as well. That's something that I've considered, and the reason you consider the Chorozo play is you make Chorozo, which is a level 4 tuner, and then you synchro off into Ancient Fairy Dragon. You then need a field spell to destroy, which can be either the Dark Magician field spell, which I think is probably the most logical, or you can play the field spell for Blue Eyes, the Mausoleum. And the way that that would work is that you would go, any of your level 4 or lower spellcasters go into the Blue Eyes Link 1. Blue Eyes Link 1 searches out Mausoleum. Activate the Mausoleum, you can send a Dark Magician from deck to grave, that's absolutely fine. But then you would also have to link off. You have to then get the Blue Eyes off the field. And I can't imagine it's going to be that easy to do, to then go Chorozo to make your Ancient Fairy Dragon. So that's something to consider. which if I'm not playing that route, I would go for the free Secret Village. But I feel that the counter argument to that one is that you put in the Dark Magician field spell as one, and then the idea is I've got more consistent ways to search out the Dark Magician field spell and then try and make Ancient Fairy Dragon. But swings and roundabouts. Evenly matched. Dark Magic Attack, this is only effective if I play Eternal Soul, so that's kind of the question on, do I play Eternal Soul, yes or no? It can get me this, which will deal with opponent spells and traps. So yeah, and then final card is Dragon's Mind. So obviously this is over 15 cards, these are just cards that I'm considering and contemplating right now. But the idea is going first, Furlos comes out, Dragon's Mind comes in. I could also just go, Furlos comes out, free Secret Village come in. And that's really going to be down to if my opponent plays Super Polymerization or anything along those lines. I am highly tempted by the Lava Golem the more and more I think about it, just because, like, I think Droll's pretty straightforward. Ogre is quite specific. I think Nibiru could be specific as well. Like, if the environment respects it, it's not going to be that effective for you. I think Perulia is a good one to have. This is going to be dependent on what I play. I still personally like evenly matched. But this is a lot of... I mean, Droll can go first or second. So if I just split it like this. So Droll can go first or second. Evenly matched is definitely second, right? Perulia is definitely second. Going first would be... let me move these out of the way. Going first, Secret Village. Going first, Dragon's Mind. So I'd have 6 going first cards. 5 go in... 5 go in second cards. Plus the 3... would make it 8, so that puts me on 14, right, already. So, and then a balance of first or second withdrawal, which I'd have to, one card would need to be cut amongst all of this, and then I'd also not be able to play these unless I found a space to put these in the main deck. So, yeah, I don't know. I've got to be careful of D-Fissure. I don't think D-Fissure is the end of the world if I do end up facing it. Again, it's really going to come down to what is going to be at the environment, and hopefully you'll start seeing the duels afterwards. This local is going to be a little bit weird. We haven't got as many signing up as I initially thought. That might change on the day. But on the base of it, I probably expect... Now, keep in mind that this is recorded before I've gone to my locals. So, my expectation with the duel lists that are there lined up would be Yubel, Sky Strikers, and then one unknown, which could very easily, if they buy the new legendary decks, could be Mitsurugi's, it could be Draco Tails, it could be pretty much anything on the scale. So, yeah, and then obviously I'll be rocking up with Dark Magician, and then I don't know about the other duelists that may or may not turn up on the day as well. So, testing it, changing it, seeing what could be cut, I guess. Open up the extra deck a little bit more. That's the short and sweet of it. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching this part. I'm going to be back with the duels in a second to give you commentary, and then we'll move on to the third and final part as well. So, I will catch you all in a bit. Well, that one didn't go well. So, through the good, the bad, and the ugly, here is today's second part of the local experience. So, took Dark Magician to locals. It didn't go well, going to be brutally honest. So, at locals, the winner was on Sky Striker. There was 2 Sky Strikers, Draco Tail, Yubel, Dark Magician, Azamina, which is this one here. There was Branded, and then there was also what I believe is Orcus, but I could be wrong, it might not have been Orcus, it was the only matchup that I didn't see. I went X1, and my one win was the bye. So round 1 was up against Branded. My draws were terrible off of my card effects, and then my opponent just like outgrinded me, so it is what it is. And then the Yubel matchup, again, was god-awful. But the cards I was drawing, it wasn't as if I was drawing like pieces I'd added into the deck or cards that shouldn't be there. I was drawing cards like the Hallowed Azamina, and I was drawing cards like Gaze with no route to Dark Magician. I was just like, bro, this is killing me. But I'll blitz through the list, show you what I kind of added and changed and whatnot, and then what I would change going forward. So hopefully I've organised this in one way or another. Yes, so this is all the Dark Magician cards, right? So these are the cards you could arguably, like, it's a big difference. If you're like, right, I want to play Dragoon, Gazer Timaeus and everything the best way possible, then you wouldn't play it in Dark Magician. That's just, it's a fact. Like, the deck performs better in, like, if you want to just get access to Dragoon, it performs better in stuff like White Forest. It performs better with, like, the Shining Sarcophagus package, just because it gives you a little bit more. That, like, the Shining Sarcophagus package, or the deck itself in general, has got 3 Future Silence, which is a 1-card combo, or like a 1.5 card combo, because it gets you to your Dark Magician Girl. They've also got the gadgets, which count as another starter, which, unlike Rod, again gets you to the Dark Magician Girl. So ultimately it has more 1-card starters. Now this will become better and different once we get the Dark Magical Curtain retrain. But for now, you know, you kind of have to roll with what you've got. Now, so apart from the 1 gaze, because you'll all play the 1 gaze regardless of what build you're playing, these cards here is what differentiates, this is what, in my opinion, makes it still a Dark Magician deck. Now, obviously, if you don't want to play a Dark Magician deck, plus the Dark Magician targets you play in the extra deck, you can take them out. That's absolutely fine. If someone said to me, I want to play this deck the best way I possibly can, I would say go to White Forest. It's a little bit more complicated to learn and play, but go that route. Or just play, instead of these cards here, just play the Shining Sarcophagus package. Like, play Shining Sarcophagus with Azamina, and you'll do a lot better. You'll be a bit more aggressive. But I wanted to play Dark Magician. Obviously, it didn't go well. There are stuff that I've changed. So as you can see, I'm only playing 1 Soul Servant. I'm only playing 2 Magician Souls. I'm not playing the Primite engine that I played for before, and that's because I wanted to play Dominus Impulse. And it went... I couldn't say that there was a couple of times where I misplayed, so that's on me. There's a couple of times where I just didn't draw well. Like, I drew a Fua when I was top decking. I'm like, right, well, that's not going to help me. I drew a Hallowed Azamina when I was top decking. It's like, if you change that Hallowed Azamina for your more consistent cards, like your wanted, even a Magician's Rod or a Magician's Souls at that point would have changed the state of the game. So, you know, it's not, how would you change this? The only way that I would change this to make it better, make it stronger, but still maintain that it is a Dark Magician deck, is you would bump it up from 40 cards and play 10 Shining Sarcophagus cards, which would be 3 Shining Sarcophagus, 3 Dark Magician Girl, 1 Dark Magician, 1 Gandora, which you could side or main, and then either 1 Future Silence or 1 Turn Silence, whichever one you want to go for. Gaze, like I said, you're already going to play that. And then you got the Wanted package, so you pretty much, like, these are your starters, like, these are your combo pieces, which is bad enough to say as it is. And, like, the other combo piece I was playing was Ready Fusion. So, there was another example as well, is I got Ready Fusion, summoned out my Sandwich, made the plays I needed to, and then my next top deck, as my opponent broke my field, was another Ready Fusion. I'm like, right, well, that's of no use to me. Plus the Hallowed Azamina that goes into this, but the idea behind these is Ready Fusion is the only true 1-card combo that we currently have to get us into D-Mod that gets us into Dragoon. Because you go Ready Fusion for 1,000 life points, get the Sandwich out, Sandwich goes into Dark Magician Destruction, Dark Magician Destruction gets you Gaze, and then off you go. Whereas Diabelle, Dark Magician Girl, they all need the discard. But again, absolutely fine with this. I wouldn't change this. I wouldn't want to bump ratios, drop ratios. The only other thing you might consider is Debitors rather than rather than the Hallowed. But again, I don't think you're really going to do that. You're probably going to stick with it as is. And then just for another consistency card that I never saw was Pot of Prosperity, because there are some flex spots in the extra deck. Like, the idea is that once you play this, if you can get your Ilia Sylvia plus your Dragoon, the only thing that's breaking your field is like a Super Polymerization. Whereas you should be able to trade your Ilia Sylvia off with your opponent, your Dragoon off with your opponent, and if you've opened up well enough, you might have even been able to add an SP to make a second Dragoon of that on that turn as well. And then for the non-engine and breakers, so for the breakers, I went with 2 Forbidden Droplets and 2 Fallen the Virtuous. Another Dark Magician card I was playing was Dark Magical Circle, which has, in my opinion, no use in the deck whatsoever. Like, this card can be completely cut now. It really should have been just add any card that lists Dark Magician. Like, I mean, I know it adds Dark Magician, but it should have been any card, not just a Dark Magician spell or trap plus Dark Magician. It should have just been any card. Like, adding a Souls off the top of this, adding a Rod off the top of this just makes it 100 times better, but hopefully we get a retrain of that in the future one day. So these were the breakers I went with. So I went with Fallen the Virtuous. The reason I went with this one is I was like, with Forbidden Droplet, I don't ever want to chain, with Super Polymerization, I don't ever want to chain Forbidden Droplet to it. But at least with Fallen the Virtuous, I can chain Forbidden Droplet. It doesn't require a discard. It also gives me a follow-up, because usually the first Fallen the Virtuous gets you to the second then gets you into the Ecclesia Disruption, so it put in a decent amount of work. And of all the cards I had, Fallen the Virtuous actually did put in quite a bit of work for me. For the other cards, so these are the non-engine hand interactions. So 3 Impulse, 2 Bell, 3 Ash, and 3 Fua. If I'm being completely honest, I'm probably joining the rest of the players that are currently put in. Like, some players main the Fuas, right, which is absolutely fine. I suppose this is the other downside as well, is that I think... no, so I won my dice roll on the branding matchup, and I think I won the dice roll on the Yugioh. No, I didn't. I think I lost that one. But like, I would be in a much happier position to have these like actually sided out and play like more. Like, I still feel that you need this many hand interactions. I still feel you need this balance between hand interactions or breakers, which in total is 15 cards, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, 15 cards. I think you need to be looking at 15 cards in your deck if you want it to be on a consistent level of breakers or hand interactions. If anything, you could argue that these become like... I still wouldn't put Forbidden Droplet, but like, these cards are good for going first or second. Like, obviously more for second, more for second, more for second, and these are like good for either or. But I don't know, maybe Ghost Ogres. Heck, I'm kind of tempted to bring back the Primites and then just lose the Impulse. Spark would definitely be a card you put in here now, and then maybe you go for Sparks, and then maybe you consider Imperms as well, just so you've got more trap cards to set off the Dominuses. But yeah, kind of Fua just bit me in the backside a little bit too much, but I've always had that relationship with regards to like Fuas and Perulias. It's always like the 6th card, or it's always the card that clogs you up down the line. So, but that's just part of the game. For the extra deck, the only ones I ever summoned: Dragoon, Typhon, Demod, Timaeus, the 2 that I sent off of the back of Fallen the Virtuous, and then Rusiliago, Sandwich, IP, and Celine. Again, these are the only cards I actually summoned throughout the entire time, and each of them I think I summoned 1 each. So, summon Typhon once is probably not worth being in here, but in certain matchups it can really pull your backside out of the fire. I went to Timaeus once just because I had to enter a grind state where Dragoon wouldn't have been enough for me. Yeah, I just kind of, again, it is what it is. I did the IP into Celine play to try and loop back the Dragoon so that it wouldn't get destroyed during the end phase, but I just didn't. I probably would have been better in that position. So I had IP. My opponent went to go battle phase to kill the IP. I used IP to go into Celine, when really what I should have done is let them kill the IP, because then the only issue is I was relying on my top deck. And what I mean by that is, whatever I top deck, I would have to go Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, because it was used making Dark Magician. I would destroy one of my opponent's cards, attack the other one, and then I would have the card in my hand that I would have to hope at that moment in time was a normal summonable monster that I could then link off to get into SP, and then SP banishes another card. So it ripped down their resources, but then it also meant that I didn't just lose Dragoon for the sake of losing Dragoon. And then the final cards that I never made is the one Artemis. This was only in here to make the light for your Master of Chaos. The one Azamina Soul, Ilia Sylvia, and SP. Like, the fact I was playing the Azamina package but never summoned the Ilia Sylvia is massively annoying, but again, that's just part and part of it. And then for the side deck. So, for the side deck, I decided to try out 3 Lava Golems. Never saw them because I went first every single time when I was siding. And I lost both my games 2-0, so... never got to put the Lava Golem in, but in theory, it kind of does its work. Ghost Ogre I put in. I saw it once, it put a bit of work in, it is what it is. Perulia, same with Lava Golem, I never went second, like, through the siding deck, so Perulia never went in. Droll never went in. Dragon's Mind went in, as did Secret Village of the Spellcasters. And in typical fashion, this was always the same with, not Royal Decree, but someone will probably scream at me in the comments about it. What one was it? It was Yu-Gi-Oh! Continuous Royal card. I'll be amazed if I find this just by Googling Continuous Royal card. Imperial Order. There we go. This kind of has the same effect on me as Imperial Order did. I would always lose to my Imperial Order, and I nearly lost to my own Secret Village of the Spellcasters. I saw it once, but I couldn't back it up with a Dragoon, which is like your ideal backup, because then your opponent just can't do anything. I was only able to back this up with a Magician's Souls, which sucked. So, in theory, it's nice, but I am slightly tempted to go back to putting Eternal Soul in the main deck, and then I would have, rather than playing 3 Secret Village, I would probably play the 1 Secret Village and the 1 Magician's Salvation. And then the idea would be is I can search out Salvation when I want, play the Salvation, get my Eternal Soul, And then I would use Magister Torozo in the extra deck to be my level 4 tuner, to then go into Ancient Fairy Dragon. The only issue with that is to make the Ancient Fairy Dragon more consistent, to give you that additional monster on the field so that you don't just go... because you need to... Basically, your combo is Magician's Rod plus Magician's Souls and your Dark Magician of Destruction. So which comes off the back of... Like, the more consistent way is when you play the Shining Sarcophagus package as well, because then you've got that Shining Sarcophagus package to make that more consistent. And even if your Dark Magician Destruction comes off your Ready Fusion or something else, your Magician Souls then becomes part of the Shining Sarcophagus. So I might have to go back to that as well. But the idea is that you would use your Magician Souls plus your Dark Magician of Destruction, go into Magister's Torozo, synchro your Torozo with your level 3 Magician's Rod, go into Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon destroys your own Magician's Salvation, and then you get to search out the Secret Village of the Spellcasters. So it means where you're playing 3 Secret Village in the side deck, you probably only need to play 1, and then you're either playing a Magician's Salvation in the main deck with an Eternal Soul, or you're siding in the Magician's Salvation, so which then frees up another slot. I think I might have to test this deck, pushing it to 50 cards. Previously, I was pushing it to 50 cards with the Primite package. I decided to go against that, but I think the Primites can also kind of just hold their own as well. Like, the Primites can win a duel on their own, which this currently can't. Like, neither of the engines really do that. So, yeah, either that or the Shining Sarcophagus package. Anyway, it still needs a little bit of testing. I suppose the other thing as well is I open up the Lava Golems if I go back to the Primites, but I can keep the Lava Golems if I stick with the Shining Sarcophagus package. So, give and take. Yeah, definitely some more testing that needs to be done with this one. I'm still waiting for that Magician's Curtain and the new Dark Magician. Like, once we get those, the deck will get another step up, because then Magician's Rod does become a successfully resolved 1-card combo. And I think that's something that the deck is massively missing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Next week was supposed to be a local experience episode for the sneak events for Blazing Dominion, but unfortunately they have been delayed here in the EU and UK, so I'm probably going to be playing another deck. I am considering that next week will be a week where I talk about the Legendary Modern deck, so I'll talk about Sky Strikers, give you a bit of budget build, show you how it plays, do the exact same for Mitsurugis, and then on the local experience, I might take Sky Strikers just to kind of show you what the deck can do without going like crazy heavy on investment, and just how the deck can operate. And I think that could be really, really good leading into the Blazing Dominion like set coming out the week after, because again, the format will then change a bit more and work from there. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.